Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Blank Ages, and I'm here to show you how I remade Laserbeam by Ray Volpe, probably the most iconic, most played EDM song of 2022. That and Dash Star. Those were like the two songs. Like Laserbeam and Dash Star were played at like every event you went to. It was crazy. So anyways, I remade this like sometime last year, but it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to sound. But I definitely made it better. You could go back like earlier on my channel and see how it sounded before, but here's what it sounds like now. Blazer, blazer, blazer. Rock the There we go. And then also I could A-B it with the original so you can hear what it sounds like when I go back to back. Blazer, blazer, blazer. Rock the Alright, so I think I got it pretty damn close. Like I literally don't know how to make it any more accurate. So anyways, I thought I would show this to you guys and include like a free project file, so that way you guys could reverse engineer this and learn how I made this and hopefully help with your producing and sound design techniques. So let's get started, right? So like the reason why I remade this was because I wanted to challenge myself and I had no clue how I made this song. So I went ahead and just took it into my own hands to try to recreate it. And I feel like it's something I used to do a lot, but I haven't done it in a while, where you basically take like a drop you like and you're like, yo, let me try remaking that. And it's a very powerful way to improve your skill set as a producer, because you know you kind of learn what they might have been thinking when they created the song, and it helps you for like your own future original productions too. So I guess I think I started with the drums because that's like the easiest thing to start with, because in the original you could like hear what's going on. So here are the drums I made. Here we got a kick. I like to usually splice together my own kicks and snares. That way I could kind of like have a low kick with like, I'm not sure if I did it here. No, this is just one kick. So sometimes I like to splice together and EQ them separately, so that way you have like a bottom kick which has a heavy low end and like a special top kick for like the clicky sound. This is just one kick. Then we have the snare. And here's the original snare. So I'm really happy that the snare came out, because this is actually like super close sounding. This is 4 different snares, and here they might be processed differently. We have this one, Cashmere Trap Snare. This is just like one of my own snares that I have. And this is a cymatics sample, giving it a lot of transient. And just a small little ting, small little texture. So yeah, then I have a saturator on it. The saturator reduces the transient and makes everything else, like the whole tail of the snare fatter and louder. So it just makes it sound thicker, basically. And then I have a little bit of a low cut going on. And then got a crash at the beginning. Got a cymatics hi-hat loop. I didn't want to spend too much time like putting in my own MIDI for this, so I just found loops. And then another hi-hat loop. And then for this part, there's a lot of hi-hat action going on. So here I did with this MIDI, basically just, I think it's all the same velocity. All the same velocity, all the same pitch. Basically just a simple hi-hat pattern. And let's go on to the mid basses now, right? We have this. And you can hear there's that like sustained like sound, like that laser beamy I don't know, it sounds like a ray gun, like a sustained ray gun type sound. So honestly, this was like the hardest part to make. You would think it's the main laser sound, but this was the mid bass is actually the hardest part for me to get down because it's still not the most accurate. So I have 4 different mid basses here. I have this one, and here's a trick where basically you could you have a simpler. I'll do it right now, right? So Control-Shift-T to make a new MIDI track. Add in a simpler, and I believe it's on, yeah, put it on classic mode. Now we could take whatever bass sound we want. We'll take that because that has some nice growliness to it. And turn this up. Now we're going to turn this into sustained bass. So let's see. I'm going to have it on loop mode. Find a part that you like. We're going to copy and paste this MIDI. And this needs to be pitched up for sure because it's way too low. And then we could change the loop. Turn that down. And I could do this anywhere on the waveform. Honestly, that would be a good fit for this remake. But that's how you make a quick, easy, sustained bass. So I did that technique for like a couple of these sounds here. So we got this one with some frequency shifting going on to kind of match the tone of the original, and some saturation. And same thing going on here, same concept. This one is a Serum preset. By the way, I am including a free download with the project where you could download all the presets used in here and use it for your own project. So this is going to be in here. And then this one, which is just a regular wavetable, not much going on here. And all together they sound like this. Alright, so let's get on to the meat of it, right? So I guess we'll start with the main laser, or the intro laser. This thing, right? So basically, I have a detuned saw wave and a, I don't know, random squarified wave that I think I drew in these squares by myself, and have an LFO on the both of them for the levels. So that's the saw, that's the square together, and then I got a bunch of stuff going on. I haven't looked into this project file for a while, so like I forget a lot of my techniques here. But honestly, just messing around with sound design. Let's see. You have this LFO on the reverb too, so that way like it starts off kind of wet and it ends kind of dry. And the combs filter is doing a lot of like wetness, giving it a lot of like space that I think is closer to the original sound. It's still not the most identical because here's the original, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Not this exact same tone or whatever. And here's a lot of distortion, OTT like multiband compression, hyper dimension for like the size and the width. And I guess there's a little bit of low pass filter just on A. This might have been a mistake, but honestly it makes it sound better that way. And then a little bit of noise too. Here we have, LFO2 is actually turning the pitch on oscillator B, the coarse pitch. And then LFO3 has a little bit of noise that's adding. Without that, it sounds a little bit more dry. The noise makes it sound more distorted for sure. Also the sub bass, which isn't really doing any sub bass, but it's adding some like let me see. It's just adding some distortion, because the sub's being filtered out in the post processing with the EQ. So that's basically that. I mean, you do have the LFO. I forgot to mention the LFO 1 on the coarse pitch of oscillator A. That's what gives it the main laser sound. And then I move this around to get it to where I want it to sound like. And then on post-processing, we have frequency shifting, which is doing the same thing as like the chorus, pitch, and serum. Basically just drew in 500 to 0, have it go back up a little bit, and then drop down to negative 500. Without that, it sounds like this. So that's a little bit of a difference. Then we have disperser, which is by kilohertz, and this kind of has a way of like separating frequencies, so it makes a cool like little dispersed laser sound, a little bit more wet. And then we have saturator, a lot of saturation, 22 decibels. So that really brings it up. And then we have this sound. This was the original sound I made actually, but this is way too dry, and this is just resampled now, so it's just audio. But I have it layered still, so together it sound a little bit better. And then we have Cymatics brass sample. I'm just pitching each one. And this has some OTT and some EQ, and that's it. And you'll notice that's in the background if you listen closely to the original. So there's that. And let's get back to the drop, right? Because I'm sure most of you guys are here for this sound. And I started with this. This is the original layer that I had, so before it kind of sounded like this. But that's not the most accurate. So we have this, which is, let me turn off all the post-processing for this. You hear what it sounds like. Very dry and clicky. Oh, I'm getting cold. Alright, so this is LFO on oscillator 1 chorus pitch, which is giving it that pitch. LFO 2 on oscillator 2. And LFO 3 turning up the level on both. Oh man, this is what LFO 2 is doing, so that's it, bypassing with it. LFO 3, you got a low notch filter, kind of like a low pass, and it's modulating the cutoff. It's adding some like roundness to it. And I guess this is like a simple, I guess it's like, this is almost like a sawtooth, but like rounded. And some detune on that. Now we have chorus, hyperdimension, distortion, flanger for, I guess, a little bit of flange. Phaser. Honestly, I went crazy with the effects here. I just wanted it to sound big and fat and wet, so I did that with a bunch of effects. We have a phase filter going on, phaser filter, and multiband compression. That's definitely bringing out the highs of it. And then an EQ, and we have LFO4 turning up the gain of the highs on the EQ, so it's kind of like fluttering with it, making it sound brighter. Or, oops. Yeah, that adds a lot of brightness and clickiness to it, and a little bit of reverb. Alright, so now let's get to the good stuff, the post-processing. So we have OTT, makes it more, I guess, shorter, because you have the time turned up to 1000, so it makes it more like clicky. And then we have a disperser. So this is doing a lot right here, wow. So you have it on, I have it on C6, about 1000. And then we have a frequency shifter, turning it down a little bit. Just bringing it back down to, I guess, get it to like a more accurate sounding pitch. And then glue compressor. So the glue compressor is making it fatter. We have the release turned all the way down and the attack at a pretty short time. And the threshold to where it's doing about -5 decibels of gain reduction. So that way when you turn up the makeup gain, it just makes it sound like fatter and makes the tail longer. You definitely hear there's more girth to it. Then you have a saturator. Kind of glues it all together. So that's that. And then we have this one. Now this one I completely forget how I made, so let's dive in. So I think this is a wavetable that I imported myself into Serum, like a bass sound or something. I think it was like a Cassation bass or something. I don't even know. But the wavetable is being shifted by LFO, turning up the level on oscillator B too. Let's hear what oscillator B sounds like. Alright, so oscillator B is a straight triangle, like a wavy triangle. Okay, yeah, so that's adding a lot of tone to it. Then we have a high notch filter, which is, let me see. Okay, so it's kind of like a high pass. Then you also have a notch going on, going the opposite ways. So without that, I mean, not too much going on there, but I feel like this is adding a little bit more resonance, cleaning it up a little bit because you have like the high pass constantly like sweeping down, so it's not a bunch of low end the whole time. And here we have LFO2, which is on the pitch of oscillator A, and on the mix of the hyperdimension to give it some wetness. So for the effects, we have hyperdimension, distortion, flanger, this is also being LFO'd, and a OTT multi-band compression, of course. And then we have disperser. Here's without all the effects, by the way. So that sounds very cheap. And then the effects bring it to life. So let me turn these down one by one. Again, you have disperser, which is doing some magic here. OTT, making it more bright, making it quicker because the time's turned all the way up. And then you have disperser, another disperser. I think this is in a, yeah, it's in a slightly higher pitch. Then you have a glue compressor. I think this is the same settings as, almost the exact same settings as the first one from the first sound. And then saturator, just a lot more saturation on this one. And then utility, that's doing nothing. And then sometimes I like to turn the bass mono on just to be safe if I'm like really serious about mixing. But this was a remake, so I didn't care about the mixing too much with this remake. You have the EQ to cut out the low end, bring up the highs a little bit more. Together they sound like this. And then we have processing on the group, so without that. So we have this. This is kind of making it more like tame. Got the saturator, which is just adding a little bit of distortion. Glue compressor, which is making sure like both the sounds together don't get too loud. And then a Pro Q3, cutting out the low end. That's basically it. So there's that. That's the main sound right there. So now we got the sub. This is a fat sub. I always use this for like all my productions. The Ultra Sub Nasco preset. I'm pretty sure it's free online. You can find it on Nasco's channel on YouTube. Shout out to Nasco. And this has some noise, bright white noise, which is like adding some erosion, some distortion to it. And then we have a bit warmer, which is also bringing out that noise and erosion, and adding some harmonics. So that way, if you listen to this on any other speaker that doesn't really have any low frequencies, like if you listen in like on your laptop or on your phone or whatever, you'll still be able to hear the sub bass a little bit because it has that those higher frequencies and harmonics. So then we're using Duck Buddy as the sidechain source, and I love Duck Buddy because it literally comes straight from MIDI from the drum rack. So we have it routing from the kick and snare to the kick, then we have one for the snare. So the one from the kick is a little bit longer, 183. The one from the snare is 131 milliseconds. So sidechaining both, pretty simple. We have some smoothing settings on there so that way the sub doesn't click. So yeah, Duck Buddy's free, by the way. It's a Max for Live device. So if you use Ableton, highly recommend, go get it. I forget which YouTuber made it, but look it up on YouTube. Shout out to that guy. And then you have some effects. So here's the drop it sample. Drop the. And that's in the original too, or there's something going on in the background, because if you listen very closely, it's like that. Wow, wow, wow. So this is why it's fun recreating music, because you hear all these little details that you wouldn't hear if you were just like listening to it casually. So we got that. Little bit of reverb on there, low cut, and then here's a chant. So I don't think this is in the original, but it adds a little bit of like hype. I'm gonna add a low pass right here. Yeah, it just adds a little bit of hype when it all comes together. And let's move on to the second half, because everything's basically covered there. So this was actually probably the easiest thing to make. The hard part about it was the MIDI, like making the MIDI, because I was like, how the hell did he make this MIDI? And then I had to keep like A-Bing it. By the way, if you want to remake songs yourself, there's a really helpful trick where you could set up a macro or like a keybind. So I have it where like R on my keyboard is switching, like soloing the original, and I press it again to hear mine. And you could just go to key up here in the top right corner, and then put it on like the S here, and then I hit R. So that's a really helpful trick if you want to A-B things without having to hit solo, because if you just click solo, there's like a little bit of like a lag or like delay, and it's not the most ideal. So that's very helpful. So here's a MIDI pattern. I think I had to look up the scale of this on like tunebat.com, so that way I could like make sure the notes are in the right key. And I love this melody, by the way. It's like very like ethnic sounding, like very I don't know, very like almost like Indian Arabian like flute sounding. So this is let's turn off the effects right here. So the effects aren't doing that much. So this is just I guess like looks like the default Serum sawtooth, but I added some waves using using these tools, and I have some detune, a little bit of detune, not much, because if you turn up the detune, you'll see like it just starts to stray away from the original sound. So this is a very basic sounding sound. And then I have some FM from B, which is going to, here's oscillator B, it's turned all the way down, but it's using the FM from B on 57%. Definitely adds some like harmonics, some extra texture to it, which you wouldn't get if you like had this by itself. Then I have hyperdimension to make it wider, distortion, little tube distortion, multi-band compression to make it brighter, and some reverb. And yeah, the main thing was just getting the melody right. So I mean, once you guys download this project file, like you'll have it, and you'll see how like I made this melody. Oh yeah, I will mention there is a little bit of monologato with the portamento on 54, which is giving it that little bendy feeling. And that's how it's like sliding from D sharp to E right here, instead of just like going from one note straight to the other. It's sliding. So I thought that was really cool, because I think that's in the original too. There we go. And then, so that's this sound, and then you have the OTT and saturation to make it fatter. This is my go-to combination. I always put OTT and saturation on, like for like sound design purposes. OTT and then saturation, I should say. And then I have, now this is from a sound design session I did, where it's like literally like I think this is resampled, but it's from this long like I don't know, just a bunch of like 20-minute sound design session, and I just went around and scanned through it, like Control Shift, and like dragged my cursor until I found the sound that I wanted. And because you can hear in the original, there's like that whoop, it kind of sounds like a fart. So I just have this. You could really put any growl sample here. So yeah, that's what I did. And then we have some extra mid bass layers. We kind of messed around with the mid bass here, because at first it sounds like this, but then part B sounds like this, which sounds like, it kind of sounds deeper and more like growly. Which is, we have this same resampling method, and then another same method again. So yeah, I think that's it. The brass. So these are the only sounds I used from the original. And then everything else I just made myself. Guys, that's basically it. Everything else, like, if you have any questions, you could download the project file and reverse engineer it. And yeah, this is my first tutorial that I'm posting on my Blank Ages channel. So make sure you like and subscribe if you want to get more tutorials like this, and please follow my Instagram too, because I'm trying to grow that, which is just Blank Ages, no spaces. But yeah, I hope this helped, and shout out to Ray Volpe, man. Such an awesome dude, and such an amazing song. Like, when this song came out, it was like the most hype thing ever. Like when Illenium dropped it at I think Illenium premiered it at Ultra last year. So that was insane to like see it all unfold for him. Yeah, that's all. Peace.